Excellencies, dear colleagues, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, for me it's a real privilege and a real pleasure to be here with you today at the opening of this very important conference. And first and foremost, I would really like to thank Foundation Alif, not only for their organizing this very important event, but for the work they've been doing. When I look at the map of their activities around the world, I see the map of conflicts around the world. Really, you can see that Ali Foundation is working where they are needed. And I think that's very, very important. They have the will, they have the flexibility, and they have a mission. But also what's important, when I look at this room, listen to the speakers, I think about how efficient multilateral effort can be. Because we're quite often talking today about multilateralism at a crisis, multilateralism under attack. There is nothing new. We've been talking within the United Nations, within our group of the member states, that we have to modernize and to reform multilateral system. We need to make multilateralism different from the period when it was established first here in Geneva with the League of Nations, then later with the United Nations. I always quote our Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, who said once, you can't build the future of your grandchildren, for your grandchildren, with the organization which was built by your grandparents. Yes, we have to change. And we know how to change. That's part of our Pact of the Future, which was adopted by General Assembly last year. And this future lies first and foremost in inclusive, integrated multilateralism. Inclusive multilateralism I see here in this room. We are representing different actors in the international sphere. And if we work just by ourselves, we will not have the results. We represent the member states, we represent the international organizations, we represent regional organizations, we represent private sector, we represent civil society and non-governmental organizations, we represent young people, female organizations, local communities. Only if we work together in a modern multilateral system, we'll be able to find solutions to the challenges we are facing today. And I personally think that protecting our heritage is just one of the ideas which can really show how effective modern multilateralism could be. Because the idea of protecting heritage is really unifying people. Do you know what was the first international treaty ever signed in the Oval Office of the White House in the United States? I doubt. I also didn't know till yesterday when I was preparing this. I knew about the treaty, I knew where it was signed, but I never knew that it was the first ever international treaty. Practically 90 years ago, on the 15th of April, 1935, in the Oval Office of the White House, so-called Rorich Pact, the International Treaty on Protection of Artistic, Scientific Institutions and Historic Monuments, was signed by the Organization of the American States. 21 countries signed this treaty. That was the first ever treaty which was signed in the White House. Also, this treaty before was discussed here in Geneva in the League of Nations, and it was approved by the Committee on Museums, which existed here in the League of Nations, and we have this draft in our archives. So 90 years ago already there was this treaty adopted at the highest level. And the author of this treaty, famous painter, traveler, philosopher Nikolai Roerich always said, where there is peace, there is culture. Where there is culture, there is peace. Then on the basis of all these ideas, the Hague Convention of 1954 was adopted. Many other documents followed. So what we have now, we already have international law protecting heritage. But is it enough? Of course not. On the one hand, we have to modernize the law, because certain things which were discussed by our predecessors are still not implemented in the law. But on the other hand, we have to find out how we could do, each of us, some concrete steps in order to protect our heritage. For me, being here in the Villa Barton is very special because I am the neighbor of the Villa Barton. We have our building in Ariana Park. But do you know why United Nations here is on Ariana Park? It could have been here, exactly in this very location. Why it's not here? Because Madame Barton, she was very supportive of the League of Nations. She was really the hostess of the very important salon here. But when she was approached by the League of Nations, who asked her to sell her domain, she said no. She was afraid that creating a very big building for League of Nations will spoil this landscape, will spoil this fantastic Sequoia Park. And she said no, and she later gave it to Swiss Confederation with certain conditions. At the end, it worked out absolutely beautiful. Geneva has a fantastic park. United Nations have a fantastic building we're protecting in the neighboring Ariana Park. So whenever there is a challenge, whenever there is a problem, there is always a solution. We, as a result, I say, have a beautiful Ariana Park. We have a very beautiful Palais des Nations, the first ever palace built for nations, not for royalty, and we have responsibility to protect it. So I take again this opportunity to thank our host country, Swiss Confederation, for their support for our project of strategic heritage, which is the renovation of the Palais des Nations, which is really a building which we have to preserve. We have to preserve both material building to show how wise our predecessors were, how really they believed in the future of multilateral system if they invested so much resources into creating this palais. But we also have to create other heritage. We, in our palais, we have archives of League of Nations, and we have archives of the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights, both on the UNESCO protection list. So I think if we all look at us, we will find what each of us in our own place can do to protect the heritage. But of course, it's much easier to protect the Palais des Nations here in Geneva than to protect something in Somalia or Yemen or in many other parts of the world. That's why I really think this is an opportunity for us to support those who are doing a very risky job and really to find new ways and new instruments to support this very important work. Thank you.